Today I'll read a book called Geronimo and the Gold Medal Mystery. Let's go right into it. Not the Olympics again. It was a sweltering hot summer morning. When my alarm went off, I dragged my sorry tail out of bed and turned on the radio for the latest news. The Olympics are about to begin, the radio announcer shouted, and I do mean shouted. I rolled my eyes. Rat-munching rattlesnakes, the Olympics? That's all anyone in New York City ever talks about. It's always sports, sports, sports. Why doesn't anyone ever get excited about the latest book on neurotonics? Comparative philosophy, I said with a sigh. I flipped through the newspaper and saw a huge headline. Only 3 days to the Olympics. Moldy mozzarella. The Olympics again, I snorted. I left my mouse hole and headed for the office. And what was the first thing I saw? Workers putting up an enormous TV screen right in the middle of town. Why? So everyone could watch the Olympics live, of course. I got to the office and saw that everybody was abuzz. They were all talking about the Olympics, of course, so I locked myself in my peaceful office. You see, I am a bit a bug mouse. Oops, that reminds me. I almost forgot to tell you. My name is Stilton, Geronimo Stilton. I'm the publisher and editor-in-chief of the Rodents Gazette, the most popular newspaper on Mouse Island. I was settled in reading a manuscript when suddenly I heard the whir of a motor approaching. There was only one mouse I knew who would dare make that much noise in my nice quiet office. Jerry Berry, I need a teensy-weensy favor. A second later, the door burst open and my sister Dia, special correspondent to the Rodents Gazette, made a grand entrance. Dia, how many times do I have to tell you not to ride your motorcycle into my office? I groaned. My sister ignored me. She went right ahead and parked her bike on top of my desk. In the process, she squished my tail, flattened my paw, and stained my favorite jacket with motor oil. Before I could squeak in protest, she bent down and whispered sweetly in my ear, "Little brother, I brought you your favorite cheese puffs from the bakery. You know, the ones with blue cheese stuffing and parmesan sprinkled on top. That did sound delicious, but I was worried. When my sister acts nice, it's usually because she has something up her fur. Jerry Berry, I need to ask you an itsy-bitsy, teensy-weensy little favor," Dia continued. I smiled. I know my sister like a cat knows its claws, and even though she drives me crazy, I'd do anything for her. "Sure, what is it?" "I need you to cover the Olympics," she blurted out. I was stunned. But, I thought Grandfather asked you to cover it." Our grandfather, William Shortpaws, was the founder of the Rodents Gazette. He ruled with an iron paw. "Yes, but something came up. Besides, you're such a fine rodent. So intelligent, so professional, so on top of things." "Forget it! I know squat about sports," I objected. Dia just smiled at me. "But you've got to go. It's been decided. Even Grandfather said so." As if on cue, the phone rang. I picked it up at once. "Hello, Stilton here, Geronimo Stilton." A voice thundered in my ear so loudly, my eardrums almost shattered. "Shortpaws here, William Shortpaws." I sighed deeply. Before I knew it, Grandfather started barking orders at me. Ran said, "Listen up. Number 1, run home and pack your suitcase. Number 2, go straight to the airport. Number 3, take the first flight to Athens. You're going to cover the Olympics. First, I want you to write a juicy article for the Rodents Gazette. Then, I'll need you to do a daily live TV broadcast. And finally, since you'll already be there, make sure to pick me up some Greek cheese." I tried to reason with him. But, Grandfather, I'm busy." "Don't argue with your grandfather," he thundered. What could I do? Dia has always had Grandfather wrapped around her little paw, and of course there was no arguing with Grandfather once he's made up his mind. There was nothing to do but scamper home, pack my suitcase, and get to the airport as fast as my paws could carry me. This is the information of Greece. I am a true gentle mouse. I boarded the plane to Athens and started looking for my seat. As soon as I had settled in, I heard a high-pitched squeak. Ooh! I turned and saw a flight attendant with a velvety fur coat, a slender snout, and powdered whiskers. She had fake eyelashes, bright red lipstick, and long polished nails. Her crooked little paws were squeezed inside yellow spiked high heels. I noticed she had just dropped her handkerchief. Being a gentle mouse, I got up and ran to retrieve it. I bowed, kissed her paw, and gave it back to her. "Ooh, you're a true gentle mouse." "You're a true gentle mouse," she squeaked. Then she accidentally dropped a small suitcase on my right paw. "Ouch!" I screamed, but I wasn't about to let a little excruciating pain get in the way of my good manners. So I reached down to pick up the suitcase. Then I bowed, kissed her paw, and gave it back to her. "After service, madam," I said. At that moment, she dropped an enormous suitcase on my left paw. "Yowza!" I screeched, but I still managed to reach down, pick up the heavy suitcase, return it to her, bow, and kiss her paw. "Still after service, madam," I gasped. The flight attendant ducked her head modestly. "Oh, you're such a polite mouse. Would you mind helping me show the movie?" Moments later, I was wrestling with a mountain of film strips that had wound themselves around my neck like snakes. "I'm suffocating," I hissed desperately. As soon as I had untangled the tape, I bowed to the flight attendant and kissed her paw. "Still after service, madam," I gasped. She smiled sweetly at me. "Oh, you are such a sweet mouse. Would you mind helping me clean all the restrooms on the plane?" I had no choice but to clean those foul-smelling plane restrooms. The stench was enough to knock a sewer rat unconscious. When I finished, I gave the flight attendant back the pail and brush. She gave me her sweetest smile yet. "Oh, you're such a knowledgeable mouse. Would you mind?" Now I was truly worried. What else could she want me to do? Fly the plane? I am a very nervous mouse, you know, so I asked very cautiously. "How else may I help you, madam?" It was then that I took a closer look at the flight attendant and realized something extremely bizarre. "My dear Stilton, did you like my little joke?" The flight attendant had a banana peel peeking out of her pocket. I peered at her. There was something familiar about the long, slender snout and those crooked little paws. Could it be? There was no flight attendant. It was my old friend Hercule Poirot, the private detective. He often traveled undercover in order to keep his investigations a secret. He truly was a master of disguise. Why, he fooled even me, and we've been friends since kindergarten. Hercule whispered off his wig and false eyelashes. "My dear Stilton, did you like my little joke?" he asked, chuckling. I tried to be a good sport, really I did, but the memory of those restrooms was too much for me. "No!" I shrieked. I didn't find it funny at all. But Hercule had already forgotten about the dirty tricks he played on me. That was just like him. "You're going to the Olympics, right?" he asked in a low voice. "Why, yes," I stammered, surprised. "Why do you ask?" Before he answered, Hercule looked around to see if anyone was listening. "I'm going to the Olympics too," he whispered at last. "Any idea why I'm going to the Olympics?" "I don't have a clue," I told him, "and I'm not sure I want to know." Hercules' investigations often led him into danger, and as you may know, I am a bit of a scaredy mouse. "Well, I'm afraid I'm going to have to tell you anyway," he said. "Look, something rotten is going on in the Olympics game. I could really use your help, old friend." "Sorry, but I can't help this time, Hercules," I said. "I'm going to Athens to write a special report on the Olympics for the Rodents Gazette. My grandfather has me snout deep in work all week long." Hercules didn't seem to have heard me. "By the way, where's Thea?" he asked. "She couldn't come. Unfortunately, Grandfather has her on another assignment." Hercules groaned loudly, so loudly that everyone on the plane turned to stare at us. "What? My adorable Thea isn't here?" He started sobbing. I was very embarrassed. "Shh, please lower your voice. Everybody is staring at us. And to think I was all set to propose to her in Athens," he lamented, holding his snout in his paws. "I even bought her an engagement ring." I tried not to roll my eyes. "You can ask her another time." Hercules dried his tears. "I'll concentrate on my work." That's what I will do. I'll try to distract myself by solving this Olympics mystery. That'll keep my mind off the, come on, Stilton. Don't be such a fly in the fondue. You know this case could give you some great headlines for a newspaper. I've already told you, I'm book solid. I really can't help you, I protested. Hercules burst into tears again. Oh, don't start that again, I begged him. He kept on sobbing. Finally, I gave in. What else could I do? I need a soft-hearted mouse. Okay, fine, stop sniffling. What's the case all about? Instantly, he was all smiles. Take a look at the list of all the countries participating in the Olympics. Soon you'll understand. He glanced at his watch. I've got to go. I have to serve a cheese snack to the passengers. He paused for a moment, as if he just had an idea. By the way, my dear Stilton, since you're so kind, would you help me? A little confession. I have a confession to make, dear reader. I didn't want to let on in front of Hercules Poirot, but I was actually pretty intrigued by this case. As soon as I got off the plane, I hooked up my laptop, went online, and checked out a list of countries participating in the Olympics. But I didn't notice anything funny about it. Okay, all those countries participating in the Olympics. There's South Korea. During ancient times, I had a zillion things to do for grandfather, but no trip to Athens would be complete without a little sightseeing. Athens is truly marvelous. Our first stop was the Parathon, an ancient temple dedicated to the goddess Athena, the protector of the city. Holy cheese, it was spectacular. The night I went out to dinner. My white book had lots of recommendations for restaurants that specialize in local cheeses. The following morning, I went to Mouse TV's headquarters in Athens. There's all of the informations of the ancient Greeks. It's the game in Olympia. I think I already know that. It's not my fault. I'm shy. The camera mouse Jack McZoomerson greeted me at TV headquarters. He looked at me suspiciously. Do you know anything about sports? Absolutely nothing, I admitted. Do you know anything about TV reporting? He demanded. Nope, not a thing, I confessed. I'm a newspaper mouse. You even tried talking on live TV, he asked next. Never, I said in complete honesty. He shook his snout in annoyance. After a moment, Jack took pity on me and gave me some advice. Look, try to relax. Don't let anyone see that you're scared out of your wits, that you have no idea what you're doing, that you're about to make a fool of yourself, and you know diddly about sports. I hardly realized it, but I must have let out a squeak of fright. Oh, don't start whimpering now, Jack shouted at me. How about if we have a little rehearsal? Try at the camera, don't stare. Try to look smart and funny. Ready? 1, 2, 3, you're on. I tried my best. Honestly, I did. Good morning. My Stilton is named, my last name is Geronimo. I'm here to talk to you about, the Olympics are over. No, that's not correct. They're about to begin here in Thea. That's my sister's name, you see. I burst into tears. I'll never be able to do it. It's not fault. I'm shy. Jack tried to cheer me up. Come on, it wasn't so bad. Why, with a little patience, you might be able to report on the weather. He paused to give me a pitying look. Anyway, I won't be the one filming. Your grandfather called to say that all the shooting will be done by. At that moment, the door swung open. A familiar snout peered through. Hello, old friend. Then he turned to Jack. The name is Poirot, Hercules Poirot. That was simply too much. I had to protest. Oh no! If he is going to film me, I refuse to do it. Hercules looked at me and smiled. My dear Stilton, I have the very thing to cheer you up. Would you like a banana? No, I don't want to eat any bananas, I shouted. Hercules just looked at me sadly. Then he pulled out his cell phone. Your grandfather would like a word with you. This is how the conversation went. Grandson, squeak, 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 squeak. Yes, grandfather. Squeak, 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 squeak. Yes, grandfather, I understand. At the end of the conversation, I hung up with a sigh. Sometimes you have to know when to throw in the cheesecloth. Let the games begin! I dreaded the next day, but there was nothing I could do. So I took a deep breath and got ready for my first live broadcast. The opening ceremony of the Olympics. An athlete carrying the Olympic flag entered the stadium at a run. He looked downright pooped. But as soon as he came in, the fun began. There was an enormous parade. It was amazing to see mice from all over the world coming together. And the winner is, the next day the games began at last. It was scampering around frantically, trying to broadcast from every competition. First, there was the weightlifting competition. Christy Kitty Litter were those athletes strong. They could lift more than 1,000 pounds. I'd never be able to do that. And the winner was an athlete from a faraway country, Pennsylvania. Next, I scampered to the track and field stadium and began my report. I was in such a hurry, I didn't even have time to be nervous. Here at the 100-meter dash, the athletes are about to start. They're running. They cross the finish line in less than 5 seconds. The first to cross the finish line is an athlete from Pennsylvania. Then it was time for pole vaulting. One after the other, the athletes started at the run. They're vaulting more than 27 feet, and the winner comes from Pennsylvania. Hercules, who was next to be filming over the competition, leaned over and asked, "My dear Stilton, would you like a banana?" "No, thank you. I think I've mentioned that I don't eat banana," I replied. "Are you sure? Look, it's a delicious banana. Besides, it's good for you." No! What do you want from me? I told you at least 1,000,000 times I don't like bananas. Touchy, Hercules said. Hercules whispered to me, "Dear Stilton, have you noticed anything a little unusual about the competitions?" Now it's my turn to be surprised. No, I can't say that I have. The team's game began next. All of the nations participated except the team from Pennsylvania. I was stumped. What did Hercules mean? Hercules shook his snout sadly. They said you were the smart one, but I always knew better. Something rotten in the state of Pennsylvania. Hercules Poirot began to peel another banana. "My dear friend, I'm afraid the mold has started to grow over your cheese. There were 3 very unusual things that I noticed and that you did not," he said with a small smirk. 1. If you look at the results of all the countries participating in the Olympics, there is one country that does not exist, Pennsylvania. 2. All of Pennsylvania's athletes look alike, too much alike. 3. Pennsylvania has not participated in any team sports, only in individual competitions. And that's because there was only one athlete representing the entire country. That was John. Are you sure? I didn't notice a thing. Hercules nodded and leaned in close. We've got to get into the Olympic Village. No ifs, ands, or buts. All the athletes are housed there. We must figure out what Pennsylvania is up to. The village is well guarded and the public is not allowed inside. But have no fear. Hercules Poirot is here. I've gotten my paws on a map of the village. Look, this is where Pennsylvania is staying. I've also figured out some ways of getting in. 1. Dig a tunnel. 2. Select mail carriers and pretend we're delivering an express package. 3. Use a parachute. 4. Hide in the garbage truck. Or we could. His voice trailed off. He was clearly lost in thought, pondering how we could sneak into the Olympic Village. Or, I said with a laugh, we could use my press pass. We headed toward the Olympic Village gate. I showed my press card to the guard and he let us in. Herc was impressed. A simple solution to a complex problem, my dear Stilton. Yet sometimes it takes a mouse of ordinary intelligence to see what the smartest rat in the room cannot. I just grumbled. I don't know who was more annoying, my cousin Trap or Hercules Poirot. In the dark of night, we headed straight for the building where the team from Pennsylvania was staying. We hid until darkness fell. Then, quiet as mice, we snuck into the building. We knew that if Mouse Lavagna really had a team, their quarters would be crowded with athletes, coaches, trainers, and reporters. But instead, it was empty. There was no one there. We decided to split up so we could cover more ground. I turned right and Hercules Poirot turned left. As I looked around those large deserted rooms, my heart pounded so fast that I thought it would pop out of my chest. It was dark and the only source of light was the teeny tiny flashlight of my keychain. In the dark, those big empty rooms gave me heebie-jeebies. From behind a column, I heard a creepy voice yell, "Yoo-hoo! Who could it be?" But before I could find out, I fainted from fright. "Yoo-hoo, Stilton, come see! I mean here!" When I came to, I realized it was only Hercules. It was just like him to scare the fur off of me. And I was relieved to see my friend, so I followed him. We tiptoed toward a solid stone door that was cracked open. We could hear strange animal sounds as if an entire zoo lay inside. Zzz. Slowly, Hercules Poirot swung the door open. Before us was a huge room filled with cages and tanks holding every type of animal. Ants, flies, grasshoppers, hummingbirds, frogs, rabbits, jaguars, apes, monkeys, elephants, dolphins. What were these animals doing here? And what did they have to do with the Olympics? In the middle of the room, there was an enormous machine attached to 2 armchairs. An old rodent was chained to one of them. He was snoring loudly. As he crept closer, I recognized him. "Why, it's my old friend, Professor Pop von Wald," I told Hercules. "About a year ago, he disappeared mysteriously, and no one has heard anything from him since. It seemed like at the time he was conducting some extremely secret experiments in genetics. Genetics is the science that details with the hereditary characteristics of species in the plant and animal world." We were about to wake him up when we heard the floorboard in the hallway squeak. "Hurry, my dear Stilton," cried Hercules. "Let's hide in that corner and be quick about it. The end justifies that means." We hid behind a row of cages and waited for the door to open. A tall, thin, very elegant-looking rat entered the room. He had blonde hair and blue eyes that were as cold as ice. His double-breasted jacket had a family crest embroidered with the words, "The end justifies the means." But what really struck me was his cruel expression. He had the snout of a rodent without scruples or feelings. He reminded me of someone, but who? Then I got it. He looked just like the Alice from Mouse Lavagna we had seen competing that morning. Imagine him first with a beard and whiskers, then with different color hair, then with a pimple on the tip of his snout. Yes! It was him. It was really him. He stood over the professor with a triumphant look on his face. When my old friend didn't wake up, the cruel-looking mouse nudged him with his paw. Professor von Wald woke with a start. "Professor, I've won another gold medal. Are you happy?" The professor was indignant. "Happy, von Neutral? No, I won't say that. In fact, I'm disgusted. You didn't deserve that medal. You won it by cheating." Count Cyrus von Snoodrath, who he is, a rodent without feelings or morals. He's tall, thin, and extremely elegant. His eyes are blue and as cold as ice. What he wants, to be the greatest athlete in the whole world. What he wears, a double-breasted jacket with his family crest and motto embroidered on it. The end justifies the means. The secret, he forced Professor von Wald to use the voltometer on him so he could win all the Olympics competition. His dream, to become very rich in Concord Mouse Island. His weak point, he does not know how to lose. Professor von Wald's secret. The Count laughed and pointed to the crest on his very elegant jacket. "Do you see this crest with my family's motto? The end justifies the means." Before Professor von Wald could respond, Cyrus van Snoodrath's cell phone rang. "Yes, this is Count von Snoodrath. With whom am I speaking?" "Oh, is that you, Nemo?" As he spoke, the Count began pumping huge waves. Hercules Poirot and I exchanged glances. There was no way a skinny, weak-looking rat like him could lift those weights. Then he continued his conversation. Yes, thanks to the professor's ingenious machine, it's possible to transfer any characteristic from one subject to another. That's how I've been able to win so many Olympics competitions. I could feel anger bubbling up inside of me. The other athletes at the game have spent years training for the Olympics, and this horrible rodent has stolen the competitions right out from under them. Meanwhile, Count von Snootrat was still boasting. Yes, for pole vaulting, the machine transfers the grasshopper's jumping ability into me. For the track event, the jaguar speed. For the weightlifting competition, the strength of an ant. And the machine can also give me the radar of a bat, the ability to see in the dark like a cat, the climbing skills of a monkey. Yes, the machine would certainly be considered a major scientific breakthrough if it were known to the public. But we'll just keep it to ourselves, he cracked. Soon we'll have Mouse Allen in the palm of our paws. He shut the phone and stroked his whiskers with a snobbish air. I shivered. I wanted to leap out of our hiding spot and wrestle him to the ground. I may not be a strong mouse, but I was steaming mad. Strong as an ant, fast as a bunny. Kairos von Snootrat stroked his whiskers. Soon the long jump competition will start. Naturally, I will win it. He rummaged through the cages until he found one that held a frog. This is just what I need. A frog. No one can leap longer or higher than a frog. Professor, please see that my brain is immediately connected to the frogs. Professor paused von Vault and not move. No, Count von Snootrat, I will not. I don't like these experiments on defenseless animals. I invented my photometer for a completely different reason, to help doctors fight incurable diseases. You have forced me to help you, but now I'm done. I refuse to be a part of your dishonest plan. Kairos von Snootrat smirked. Well, fortunately for me, I don't need your help anymore. I pay close attention to how this machine works and can do it by myself. By now, Hercules had had enough. What a terrible, terrible rat. That's not playing fair. We need to turn him in right away, he whispered to me. But how? I whispered back. He's so strong. He could easily overpower the two of us. Hercules gave a sly smile. He pulled out a small digital camera from one of his many trench coat pockets. You'll take pictures of everything, and we'll have the proof we need to send that slimy sewer rat to jail. You'll wait until he leaves for the next competition, then we'll rescue your friend, the professor, slip away, and bring the photos to the authorities. I smiled admiringly. Hercules really was a good detective. He raised the camera and bumped the cage with his elbow. A breathtaking tail chase. The cage fell on top of the cage in front of it. That cage fell on top of one in front of it, and that cage fell on top of the one in front of it until suddenly there were dozens of cages falling. Strangely, Hercules didn't seem all alarmed. Oops, what a mess I made, he giggled. Count Kairos von Snootrat turned and saw us. Who are you? What are your names? Where did you came from? How long have you been spying on me? Why are you here? Hercules just stuck his tongue out at him. Then he began taking photos at supersonic speed. Count von Snootrat shouted angrily. Give me that camera now! Do you understand? With a swift leap, Holly Cheesy really was fast. He grabbed the detective by the tail. Hercules tossed the camera to me. Catch it, Stilton, catch it! He thought the camera on the fly, and the Count was after me in an instant. A breathtaking tail chase around the lab had begun. A little switcheroo. Kairos von Snootrat laughed evilly. Why am I even bothering to chase you? This amazing machine will help me catch up with you instantly. In mere seconds, I'll be able to run as fast as a bunny rabbit. With that, he vaulted into the air and landed on the chair. As he leaped, he grabbed the frightened rabbit and switched on the photometer. But he was so busy multitasking, he didn't notice that Professor Paz von Vault had switched the bunny rabbit with another animal, a snail. The machine began to hum as it warmed up. Buzz, buzz, buzz. When the buzzing stopped, Cyrus Von Snookrat tried to get up, but his movements were very, very slow, just like a snail's. He opened his mouth to speak. We waited and waited and waited. Finally, he managed to say, "Rats! I'll pluck your whiskers!" Around to Professor Von Vaught and freed him from his chains. Meanwhile, Hercule Poirot called the Athens police on his cell phone. "Hello, is this the police? I've got a nasty little rat ready for handcuffs. Can you come pick him up? Is he dangerous?" "No, not anymore. He was speedy before, but now he's lost the spring in his step. No, you might even say he's feeling a little sluggish." Hercule was right. Cyrus Von Snookrat had become really slow. Half an hour later, when the police came to take him away, he was still trying to get up out of his chair. The professor took pity on him and turned on the voltometer. With a hum, the machine gave him back his regular speed. As soon as he could talk normally, Cyrus Von Snookrat started screaming insults at us. His snout grew redder and redder with anger. "You sewer rats, you low-grade class of rodents, substandard species of mice. If I catch you, I'll tie your tails together. I'll pluck off your whiskers." "Oh, well, looky here," Hercule laughed. "For such a snob, it doesn't take much to get your snout bent out of shape, does it? I can tell you're a big fat liar and not a real athlete because you don't know how to lose. A true athlete knows how to accept defeat. As easy as nibbling on cheese." I hugged Professor Paz Von Vaught. "I'm so happy to see you, Professor. Are you okay? Can you tell us how this machine works? I'm very curious." My old friend laughed. "Why, it's as easy as nibbling on cheese. Let me explain. All you need is to calculate the cubic root of the radical formula of the Maserado logarithm. Then factor in the geometric potentiometer micromoles of the centrifugal titaniumic of the quantum atomic neutron element." That's when I cut him off. "That's okay, Professor. You lost me at the Maserado logarithm." The professor smiled. "Sorry about that. I get carried away sometimes." "Not the red button." The professor, Hercule Poirot, and I were so busy chatting we forgot about Count Von Snookrat for a minute. He saw his chance. Faster than a gazelle, he leapt toward the voltometer. "If I can't use this machine, then no one else will be able to either." He grabbed the controls and pushed the red self-destruct button. "No, not the red button!" shrieked Professor Von Vaught. The voltometer began to hum louder and louder. Bzzz. Then it began to smoke. There was a horrible stench of burnt wires and metal. Within a few moments, the machine had melted. The professor sank to his knees next to the wreckage. "Oh no! Building this machine was my life's work." He buried his snout in his paws. I wanted to comfort him, but I didn't know what to say. I imagined how I'd felt if all the books I'd ever written were destroyed. I'd be devastated. Fortunately, Professor Paz Von Vaught recovered quickly. "Well, perhaps it's for the best," he said, sighing. Like many of the best inventions, it proved to be dangerous in the paws of an untrustworthy rat. God damn bananas! Once the news of Count Von Snookrat's cheating got out, the competition that he had won were voided. Then the events were repeated the next day, and this time it was the best athletes who won, not the most sneaky. There was a special ceremony to thank Hercule Poirot and me for solving the case. I was a little embarrassed by all the attention, but at the same time, I knew Grandfather would be proud when he heard the news. "Hooray for Hercule Poirot! Hooray for Geronimo Stilton!" all the athletes cheered. Hercule took a bow. Then he shouted, "3 cheers for all the athletes, especially the one of Mouse Island." That got a huge cheer from the audience. "Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray!" Hercule sat down again and began chewing on a banana. "Would you like a banana, my dear Stilton? You see, this one is special because I cut him off. I just couldn't bear to have this conversation again." "No, thank you. Come on, just give it a little taste. You'll see why," Hercule continued. "Thank you, but no," I said firmly. "Try just a little bite," he insisted. "I'm not hungry, but it's really a good banana. Just let me explain. Not only do they upset my stomach, but also I hate them. But it would be impossible for you not to like this banana. If you'll just let me explain. I can't stand the taste of bananas, I shouted. I hate bananas. I despise them. I detest them. I loathe them. I stopped at last, but only because I had run out of the words that mean hate. He waved a banana under my nose, but my dear Stilton, these don't taste like bananas. They taste like cheese. That's what I've been trying to tell you. I looked at him suspiciously. Then cautiously I leaned in to smell the banana. Hercules was absolutely right. It was the tastiest banana I've ever had. In fact, it was scrumptious. This is not your everyday banana, Stilton, Hercules explained. I soaked it in melted cheese all night. What do you think, my dear Stilton? I sighed with satisfaction. Hercules, if you hadn't thought of such a remarkable invention, I'm sure Professor Potts von Wald would have eventually. Yum. Geronimo, you're amazing, but the real surprise was still to come. When the Olympics wrapped up, Hercules Poirot and I boarded the first plane back to New York City. Despite what I told Tia and Grandfather, I was sad to leave Athens. It was a truly beautiful city and one with so much fascinating history. I couldn't wait to come back for a visit. After a bumpy flight, Hercules and I scrambled off the plane together. It was good to be home. Much to our surprise, there was a huge crowd of rodents waiting around at the airport. Geronimo, you're amazing. I turned red as a tomato. Who, me? I stuttered. The crowd pushed down the barriers. More than 1,000 female rodents rushed towards me. It was terrifying. I scampered away as fast as I could. Run, my dear Stilton, run, called Hercules. At that moment, my cell phone rang. It was my sister Tia. Geronimo, your TV broadcast of the Olympics were stupendous. By the way, you look great on TV. All my friends want to meet you. And what an adventure you had. It's the kind of thing that only happens to you and Hercules Poirot. Those are the facts about the modern Olympics. Okay. They're too long. So, I think I can't read it. The Summer Olympics, the Winter Olympics, Paralympics, sports that come and go, great Olympic athletes, Olympic records. Okay, that was the book I read. Thank you for watching, and I hope I can see you in the next one. Take care.